they're going to have to be a little wary. Mind you, as we've heard, there are some extremely good drivers going out there in these E-types, so it'll be fascinating to see how they all deal with it. People like Miles Griffiths, for example, Martin Stretton, Martin and Alex Brundle. You know, some of these guys have been out several times already today. Gary Pearson is out there, John Minshaw. We've got lots of really top drivers. Callum Lockie's in this, Nigel Greensall as well. The Guy Minshaw this time is actually having a bit of a play. So between us all here, Alistair, there is really quite an impressive lineup of drivers in E-types.
Yes, as you run your eye down the list, you think, oh, he's doing it. Yes, they're all there really. And I noticed Mike and Matt Wrigley are out again, father and son, sharing a car this time. They were in the Formula 2 cars. Separately, of course, and you mentioned Julian Thomas and Callum Lockie, always competitive, but we've also got Danny Winstanley out as well. And
going wide already, the number 3 car, that's the Mark Russell Tony Jardine car. I'm not sure who's in it right now, I'm afraid, but yes, went wrong from the start there. Let's have another look at this. Just getting a little bit out of shape and around onto the grass. The trouble, of course, is when you're on the grass, it can slide a long way. Thankfully, there's a bit more tarmac to go onto there and able to recover it. But just look at the amount of water that is around. You can see how many. You see another spin. I think we might see quite a lot of these. I guess that's been a spin anyway. Probably. We haven't actually seen what happened so far. Very, very tricky conditions indeed. And in a way, it does remind us of the history of some of the classic races at Silverstone over the years. Lights on as they are to try and see where they're going, but a huge amount of spray being kicked up into the air. Nonetheless, as we've said, there are some very competitive drivers out there who I'm sure will find a way to make it work. And there's the number 89 car just heading around. That's the Mike and Matt Wrigley car. Some beautiful machinery though, isn't there? 75, that's Steve Skipworth and James Dean in their E-type. And everybody just being a bit tentative, understandably, because it really is quite tricky.
It very much so, yes. Even at the relatively slow speeds that they're going, they're kicking up so much spray that it's almost impossible to see. We know that there are patches of standing water, although the circuit staff have been out there working hard to try and clear those before they let this session go. So hopefully they've been cleared. But we should see probably half a dozen cars, if not a few more, vying for the top times. We've got another quick driver, Andy Newell, sharing with the Ria Sorter, who's the German lady who prepares cars for owners in Germany. She always shares with Andy Newell. He's very, very quick indeed. And we've already mentioned Tiffany Dell and John Spears as well. They're out again, and the Dodds as well, Graham and James Dodd, father and son, another father and son team.
Yeah, real combinations out there, aren't there? There's the number 78 car, that's Danny Winstanley, and we'll see how Danny gets on. It's such a whoa, dear, oh dear, that was a nasty one there, but thankfully again there's plenty of room to have the spin. That's John Minshaw. I think he just hit the water actually, and that set the rear end going one way then the other, and then he managed to get it straightened out. Now the safety car's coming out, doesn't surprise me. It is so wet out there, even for cars like this, which are running obviously on a treaded tyre. They're not single seaters running so low to the ground, but nonetheless it's very difficult out there. That's Jonathan Mitchell in a semi-lightweight who's gone off, so the safety car is out. We've only had I don't think anyone's done a whole lap yet, so nobody's done a genuine timed lap as such so far. I guess some might. I don't know if anyone's going to get a lap in before they catch up the safety car. They have to back off now anyway. So not really a representative qualifying. Car number 60 there. That's the Gregor Fiskin Christoph Cowan's machine. But well, for those of you out and about on the track, I'm sure you're finding some cover somewhere. And for the marshals, you're all doing a fabulous job as ever. I know many of you are getting somewhat wet now after all this rain we've had this morning, but you are keeping it all running, which is what we all need. So thank you so much to the marshals. And for now, the safety car is going to control the pace, Alistair, of these gorgeous cars. Still, it'll slow them down. We'll be able to look at them more closely, won't we?
Yes, that's true. Yes, I think the idea of this is obviously it's a little bit dangerous to have the cars trying to set times, so slow them down. But you might say, well, why not just bring them in the pits, because they're not going to set a time for the grid. But it is clearing the track of water, as long as we don't get too much more rain.
True.
And the drivers are learning where the puddles are, which is you said earlier, John Minshaw, a driver of John Minshaw's experience and speed isn't spinning because he's lost control through getting something wrong. He's hit a patch of water, and they need to know where those are.
Yeah.
So that's probably the thinking behind running the safety car.
And it's a tricky day today because there's a huge amount of track action. It's the same throughout every day here, all 3 days. The Classic, there is a huge amount of action, which is of course what we all love, but when you're trying to cram it all in, it can be difficult when the weather isn't quite according to plan. Nonetheless, good to see the cars out there, and let's hope that they get to do a run. So we have actually had some times, some of them have been slowed down behind the safety car, but funnily enough, it's the Brundle car that is fastest at the moment. So the Alex and Martin Brundle car is fastest, for Gary Dearson, and then Nigel Greensall up there with Martin Stretton, but they're not really fully representative times, I don't think, because of the safety car coming out when it did. And it's leading a rather uniquely coloured car. You don't see many E-types that coloured, do you?
That's the Andy Newell rear sorter car.
Right.
Is that, yes, that turquoise colour? Yes, unusual for an E-type.
It is.
Most of them
nice.
are grey or cream.
Yeah.
The 53 we're looking at there is one of the Pearson's cars. It's the John Pearson driven. That's Gary's brother. Gary was down to drive that car, but he's crossed his name off on that one. So just John Pearson.
He's another one, isn't he, Gary? So.
Yes. That doesn't mean anything. He usually drives at least 2 cars.
Absolutely.
But he's John will be driving that one solo.
Yeah, so they're all having to take things a little bit steady at the moment. Yellow flags being waved as the safety car heads them around. 20 minutes to go. It's just a question of whether a few laps like this will be enough just to clear the worst of the standing water. It isn't raining now quite the same way as it was earlier, so at least there is a chance for a bit of a line to develop between the big puddles, and as you say, they can learn where the worst puddles are. And in fact, looking down the Hamilton Straight as I am just now, when we looked at it a little earlier, there was just a sheen right across it. Now there is a line, a drying line developing down one side. You don't want to be on the inside because there is still the sheen of water, but now there is a bit of a drier line. So hopefully a few laps like this, and then they will actually be able to release them and set them off once again. Number 84 car, it's a very pretty car, that Rick Wilmot, silver 3.8, 1961 car, early car. But there you are. That's what we're talking about, Alistair. You can just see that bit of a drier line on the right as we look at it there.
That's right. Yeah, where the car. This is they're squeegeeing the water off the line, aren't they? But equally you can see the puddle to the left of that, which makes it very tricky for overtaking.
Yeah. So everybody together. We've got some 42 cars out there at the moment. Impressive. Oh, the doors are. Oh, he's flapping the door. There's probably that. It may well be to stop the windscreen steaming up. Actually, sometimes drivers will do that to prevent the steaming up, and particularly when you're going slowly. Of course, just flapping the door is not a problem. You don't want to be doing it when you're going flat out, but when you're going slowly, it's not such a big deal. That's the Alex Buncombe car. That's a shame because Alex can be pretty competitive, can't he?
Yes, son of Jonathan Buncombe, who was a touring car driver of note. Alex Buncombe himself a very good racing driver, so yes, that's a real shame to see him retiring so early in the session, and makes you wonder whether that's the primary reason for the safety car, was to get that car cleared.
And I think that was the car we saw stopped, and I thought it had a spin, but I'm not sure it did. I think maybe it's just had a mechanical problem, in fact, so that's why they've had to pull it out of the way. So yes, that could be fundamental to the safety car, that they've moved that car out of the way, but it has also helped the track get a bit drier with so many cars going round and round together. They have cleared away some of the worst of the water, which is good news. So hopefully we will get a bit of a qualifying dash. Car number 12 there, that's Tony Best and Ed Thurston's. That is a semi-lightweight. A semi-lightweight is not... The original lightweight was a sort of modified version of the E-Type, a lighter version using some rather tweaky bits of engineering. The semi-lightweight is a modern kind of slight version of the same, isn't it, without all the same tweaks.
Yes, it was Jaguar's effort to try and make the car competitive in international racing, was to try and lighten it. And then they also did cars with aerodynamic bodies as well, called low drag cars, and there are one or two of those out. We've seen a couple in shot already, where it's not the traditional E-type shape. It's got a slightly different body shape to it to try and get it through the air a little bit quicker, but nothing really worked against the might of Ferrari and their 250 GTO, which was a contemporary of.
But we don't have to worry about that in this race, because there isn't one. You're only allowed an E-type. You can't have a Ferrari 250 GTO in this race. Definitely not. You've got to behave yourself, enjoy the E-type. But I'm really looking forward to this. It is such a beautiful car. It's carried over this 60-year period now, hasn't it? And it is still timeless.
Yeah, absolutely.
As a design, and whether you go for the drop head or for the coupe, both of them are gorgeous.
Yeah, absolutely it is. And I think it was well documented that Enzo Ferrari said that it was one of the most beautiful cars ever designed. And that's something coming from someone who built the cars he did. It's the passage of time hasn't really changed the look of the car to the eye, has it? It's just the lines, and in fact, I think the long bonnet and then the sort of relatively short cabin and chopped off back, it just seems to balance the shape perfectly.
Yeah, wonderful car.
And the Datsun 240Z was said to be a bit of a copy of the E-Type, wasn't it?
Yeah, I like the Datsun 240Z, but it didn't have quite the flow of the E-Type.
No.
Different, and still a very attractive car. And it's fascinating when you see all of these cars. As I say, we've got over 40 of them, and there are these subtle differences as well in them, whether they're slightly modified, a slightly different age of the cars gives them a slightly different look, the bumpers or no bumpers. So that is all a part of it. And as Ed mentioned earlier, we've got a class that are fairly original, that run on the wire wheels as well. And then you've got the class that's slightly more modified on the solid wheels. So they're not all exactly the same performance, there's no doubt about it. Some of these have potentially much faster around a track than others, but it's just lovely to see so many of them out there. And there'll be plenty of road versions here at Silverstone this weekend as well, to also celebrate the 60th anniversary, along with many other car clubs. So we're back up and running, we're green, so now we're going to see hopefully some representative times, and you can see people trying to overtake down in towards Abbey Corner, using that drier line, trying to stay off the really wet bits, and that could be the tricky aspect. You want to be out front really and not dealing with too much traffic now. And that's what we'll see. So now we are beginning to see some pace from these cars. We could see a bit of sliding around as well, because it is going to be very, very slippery out there. You can see how they're leaving tyre tracks as they take the water off the surface.
Yes, and quite a lot of the drivers taking that wet line that you described earlier, where they go much wider around the corner to try and find a bit more grip, rather than on the part of the track that's used in the dry, and it gets polished. Danny Winstanley, number 78, we had a brief look at earlier. I see he's in 5th place. He's come up through all sorts of club racing, but I've not seen him in an E-Type before. No,
it does seem as though we've got drivers in E-Types this weekend that we've seen in all sorts of other things, but now they're having a play in an E-Type, and we can enjoy watching to see how they get on with it. So only a third or so around the lap so far, so we haven't really got anything terribly representative. The times that have been set are, we'll see how representative. We've got quick guys up there, no doubt. The Brundles, Pearson, Greensill, Stretton, Stanley, they're all quick drivers. But that was just before the safety car came out, and I'm not sure how many people were affected by the safety car. So I think we'll see some fairly major changes, especially as the track is in a slightly better shape now than it was earlier. Interestingly, I think a couple were in the pits. Well, they were all behind the safety car, but it does look as though a couple have been into the pits and come out again. Might be that they've swapped drivers, of course, because we've only got just under 12 minutes to go.
We're looking at number 26 there, just passing the primrose coloured E-Type. The darker coloured one, 26, is the shared car John Spears, the owner, and Tiffany Dell, will be sharing with him, as he does very often, and is doing, I think, at least 5 times this weekend.
They had a win earlier this year, didn't they?
They did.
Thruxton.
Yeah, they did. I was there.
Uh-huh.
It was a great day, because Tiff's pretty much based at Thruxton with,
He is very much,
with his coaching and teaching, and he was absolutely delighted to take the win.
Yeah, that wasn't an E-Type challenge specifically.
No.
That's what they call the Jaguar Classic Challenge, but it's nearly all E-Types anyway.
Yeah, it was. Yes, you can, and there was an XK 20 in. Occasionally you get a D-Type, but mainly it's E-Types. Yes.
So yeah, they won from John Minshaw. Gary Pearson was up there as well, I noticed. So yeah, so we're going to see similar, but we've got quite a few others in this one, haven't we?
Absolutely,
really potentially fast drivers. Okay, so we're seeing some more representative lap times now, and in fact the Minshaw car has gone quickest, so that's John Minshaw who's set the pace for the moment. Martin Stretton second fastest currently, with Tony Best third fastest. The Callum Lockie car fourth quickest so far, but we're going to see a few more changes as we go around the lap. 10.5 minutes to go.
Just popping in there well inside the top 10 is the Jonathan Hughes and Nigel Greensall car. We know how quick Nigel is, but Jonathan also quick as well, so that's a good pairing, and they're up into 7th place. And that's pushed Buncombe down. I don't know whether Buncombe...
Oh, that
was close, wasn't it?
Yeah, my goodness. That was Martin Stretton who had to kind of get out of it because the car going around the outside of him, Stretton in car number 2 there. But he held it well. That was good experience, as we know. He told us, he told Ed just before the start, that's not the fastest car out there, but he's thoroughly looking forward to it. He handled that very well, I have to say.
It did indeed, yes. And the Brundles just improved on their lap time and moved themselves up to 12th place.
That's good.
Another father and son pairing. We've got a lot of those this weekend, haven't we? The Dodds just improved to 14th, but fastest.
Gary Pearson,
the man.
That's impressive. He's just gone quickest. I think we're going to see a few more of these though, because the track is getting better, isn't it?
And Gary lives just over the road, so he knows exactly what the weather does at Silverstone.
Does he literally live over the road?
Well, they're Northamptonshire. Northampton, yeah, just down the road. So it's Pearson, Minshaw, and then Stretton. So the wet conditions are probably playing into Martin Stretton's hands a little bit, as you say. He said it wasn't the quickest E-Type out there, but it's not all about power and grip in this weather, is it? It's about skill and being able to balance the car through the long corners.
He's clearly got that, hasn't he? Yeah. So there's been a good improvement there for number 221 car.
That's Ben Mitchell.
Yes.
Again, I've not seen Ben out in an E-Type before, but he's one of the Mitchell dynasty, if you could call them that. There's Westy Mitchell, the dad, and Ben and Sam, the 2 sons, who are all really quick drivers. Came up through Formula Ford, classic Formula Ford, but have moved into sports car racing and obviously today into an E-Type.
He's done well there, 4th fastest for the moment. 1 or 2 popping into the pits perhaps to swap drivers. Ooh, Martin Stretton running a bit wide there, but actually kept his foot in quite well, so he won't have lost too much. And Minshaw goes faster again, so John Minshaw goes back in front, and now Winstanley moves up to 3rd. So yeah, they're all getting better and better. And again, look at that oversteer through Abbey. Oh, beautifully held there by Martin Stretton. He ran it right out to the white line virtually on oversteer, but kept it balanced. Beautifully done. They're all going to be able to hold on.
Yeah, well, all these cars are coming up to complete the lap, so we'll get a lot of new times come in as they come out of Club Corner.
Yeah.
Some improvements coming in.
Yeah, Miles Griffiths has gone up to 2nd, hasn't he?
Yeah.
So that's a good improvement. As you say, we're going to see a few more of those coming now. Martin Stretton, not an improvement on that lap, maybe a bit too much sliding around on the last lap, but I think he's still got potential. But pretty good first sector. He goes in really wide on purpose there, I think, trying to use the wet line. You can see how tricky it is to get on the power. He's trying to get on the power and it just wobbles around a little bit. He goes in really wide into Luffield. He stays almost out to that white line. It's a really good wet line through the corner. Oh, but it's tricky when you've got a car in front of you. And he has to cut back to the inside, but still got good traction and accelerated very effectively out of there. Gary Pearson's on another good lap. At the moment. He's just gone fastest, and in fact he's gone fastest outright. He's gone fastest in the middle sector. Now Gary Pearson has set the pace.
Yeah, it's all about experience, isn't it? People like Gary Pearson and Martin Stretton have done so many racing laps, and they're just using that experience and with Gary, certainly the knowledge of racing E-types. So we're looking again at Martin Stretton, who is, he was going off the road there. He took such a strange line, didn't he?
He is using some unusual lines, but it's about trying to find the grip, I think. But it's commitment too, very committed. Yeah, right out to the edge. He really plays to the line, doesn't he?
Absolutely, he does. Yes, yeah. I'm surprised he can even see the lines. It's so wet. But he's coming down the Hanger Straight now, so we'll get a lap time for him in about 30 seconds' time. So we'll be able to see whether he can improve.
I don't think he's going to. Looking at the split times, I don't think it's going to be quite enough. He's quick around the corners, but as we know, this car is not as quick as some of the others in a straight line. And I think he's going to miss out a little bit. So Gary Pearson is currently fastest. Winstanley's on a good lap again, so he might be able to improve from what he's done. Danny Winstanley. Let's just see what Martin does as he comes over the line. In 8th at the moment, and he goes up to 6th. So that was an improvement, but it's not quite enough to jump up to the top of the order, which is controlled by Gary Pearson.
Indeed, yes, and still John Minshaw and then Miles Griffiths and Danny Winstanley, you mentioned, had come up to 4th. And also a good showing from, I don't think we've seen them in the top 10 until now, and that's Kent and Ward. That's Chris Ward and John Kent. Moved up to 5th.
Notice that Miles Griffiths is doing a good job, 3rd at the moment. I just watched him come through Abbey. He was very committed, getting past one of the slower cars. Whether he can put in an even quicker lap this time around, we shall wait and see. 4.5 minutes to go. Does look promising, doesn't it, everybody, for a pretty exciting E-type race. But of course, the conditions may be different when we see them actually go into the race than we've got right now. Gary Pearson has an advantage of almost exactly 1 second as fastest over Minshaw. 2 minute 48.3 versus 2 minute 49.3. That's the gap between the top two. Griffiths then just a couple of tenths slower and on a reasonable lap. Actually his first sector no quicker at this point, but reasonably competitive. Winstanley starting out well again, so we could still see some changes here. Bit of a slide for the Richard Kent, Chris Ward car coming out of the last corner.
A good last sector for that car. We've just been watching that coming through, but the whole lap didn't add up to an improvement, so that stays in 4th place. That's the registration number on that car, and therefore maybe all or parts of the car, are very famous Cut 7. It used to race in the 60s.
Right.
It had many. It was used on many different cars, but it's one of those number plates that was just around at the time. Probably nice to see it still out there racing.
So Gary Pearson is the fastest so far. We've been keeping an eye on him, number 23. To see him back into action. There he is. Oh, that's 88. Sorry, that's the 88 car. Yeah. It's the second one after that. Yeah. So that's number 23, Gary Pearson, who has set the pace so far. Yep. The 88 car is the Richard Kent, Chris Ward machine, which is currently 6th. So it's going pretty well. But this is. Watch this, watch Gary Pearson. Let's watch his lines, see what we can learn. Very smooth, controlled. Does he go as wide? Yes, as Martin does through there. He does pretty much. Comes back in a little bit more. That was nice though. A little bit of oversteer, but beautifully controlled. Didn't let it get out of shape too much. Got his window open, hopefully steaming up the windscreen. The windscreens generally looking pretty clear, aren't they, on these cars? John Burton in the number 25 car there. Pearson has done a better first sector on this lap, so he might be able to improve on his provisional pole even more. Through the mist, through the rainfall that we've been having here at Silverstone. Thankfully not quite as heavy now as it was earlier. Gary Pearson doing a fantastic job.
Yeah, it's lovely to watch him coming through. That's the Beckett's complex there and out onto the Hanger Straight. Just watching him balance the car on the power, just at the point where it starts to slide, but he controls it beautifully. And that's a great impression of how wet it is, isn't it?
He's got a bit of traffic here though, hasn't he?
Yeah.
This is not ideal, because in fact his middle sector has not ended up quite as quick as he'd done before. I don't know if he's going to be able to further improve this lap.
He's coming down now through the Vale and into Club Corner now, the not quite so tight Club Corner for this meeting, and through the right-handed element of Club and then over the line. But as you say, his sector times weren't quite as good when he hit that traffic.
He's going to get another lap in though, because he's a minute ahead of the checkered flag, so who knows, maybe he can do another one. That lap was a 2:51.5 compared to a 2:48.3 that he did earlier, so yeah, some 3 seconds slower. So you'd think the track would be drying, but you get to this stage when it's not very warm, that you get this kind of greasy surface that doesn't really give you any more grip. You just end up sliding all over the place until the track properly dries, and it doesn't feel like it's going to do that at the moment. We've still got a little bit of rain around. There's water being thrown up by the cars even when they're on the dry line, so it's proving challenging to actually set any faster pace. The Brundle car's gone 10th, Alex and Martin sharing that car.
And a great lap from young Ben Mitchell, put himself second. What a drive from the 2:21 E-Type of Ben Mitchell, which has just put himself second with a time just 2/10 slower than Gary Pearson.
Alex Buncombe in car 22 going through, but it's the 2:21, as you say, that has just put in that very impressive second fastest lap. So the checker flag is now out, but the drivers are still on a lap right now. Mitchell's final sector faster than anybody else in this session. Minshaw currently third in the pit, so he's clearly not going to improve on his lap time. Griffiths currently fourth. The Hughes Greensall car has got a good first sector, so I would imagine there is an opportunity for them. 52.1 in that first sector. The middle sector is very long here, so it takes forever before you think, oh, somebody's done a really good first sector, and you think, nah, look at the second sector, but actually it's nearly a minute and a half to get through the second sector in these cars around Silverstone, so it takes a long time. There is the 2:21 machine that you were talking about, and this great performance by Ben Mitchell.
Yeah, and he's improved on his time in Sector 1, Ben Mitchell has. If he hasn't passed the flag yet, so he can be timed on this lap.
Yeah, and actually it's very similar to the Hughes Greensall car. So the 91 machine is the one we're going to have a little look at, because it is on a good lap, 52.143 in Sector 1. And we'll see whether they can improve on their current 7th position on the provisional grid. And let's have a look. So who have we got here? Is that the 91? Yes, it is. That is the Hughes Greensall car, just making its way down, and a good second sector as well. Fastest second sector of anybody. So that car is on for potential pole position. The number 91 car on for a potential pole, but we shall see. Let's just have a look. He's going to be into this final sector fairly soon now. There is the 25 car, John Burton. 18 comes across the line, so John Clark. Let's look in the background though, see if there's going to be any improvements. Yes, I think it is going to be good. He just crossed the line, he's gone fastest. He's gone fastest. The Hughes Greensall car, I imagine it's Nigel Greensall in the car at the moment, has taken provisional pole on a 2:47.916. Gary Pearson, who came into the pits, has been pushed back to second. Ben Mitchell up there in third place. John Minshaw in fourth, and then in fifth place it is the number 88 car of Richard Kent and Chris Ward. We're looking there at Richard Means and Chris Livingston Price's semi-lightweight roadster. Really interesting looking car, but well done to the Hughes and Greensall team who've put together a mighty lap.